Today's guest is New York Times bestselling author and clinical psychologist, Dr. Shefali. She's an expert in family dynamics and personal development and teaches courses around the world. She's written a multitude of books, including The Conscious Parent, The Awakened Family, and her newest book, The Parenting Map, with step-by-step solutions to consciously create the ultimate parent-child relationship. She offers a profoundly practical and groundbreaking parenting solution that helps parents actualize their deepest desires for their children. This step-by-step guide disrupts toxic inherited patterns and replaces them with authentic connections that allow us to see and respond to our children for who they are and who they can become. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome Dr. Shefali to the show. Dr. Shefali, I'm so excited to have you as a young parent of young toddlers and one on the way. Your new book, The Parenting Map, is all the tools on how we can really have and practice conscious parenting and focus on our relationship with our kids, which I think for young parents has been overwhelming with all the information on the internet. We want to do it right. So thank you so much for sparing your time and your expertise here on the show. I'm really excited to interview you today.
Thank you so much. So yeah, this is the book, The Parenting Map. It is the how to become a conscious parent. So for any parent listening who wants to do this in a conscious way, this is the book that lays it out step by step. I've given 20 steps with lots of practice exercises because every parent wants to do it right, but there's no manual. You know, our children don't come with the manual. So this is that manual.
I love it. And this is not your first book. You wrote The Conscious Parent in 2010, Out of Control in 2013, and The Awakened Family in 2016. How is The Parenting Map different from those first three books? And how can we start to incorporate this into our daily practice as parents?
Well, the first three books were really the what and the why. Conscious parenting needs to be the new parenting model. It's such a brand new model. It's such a revolution. Even though I've been doing it for 13 years, I've been breaking ground. Now conscious parenting is a thing. But when I began teaching it, it was not a thing. So it's a revolution in the way we parent. It's so groundbreaking. It's so amazing. I'm so passionate about it. And then finally, this book is the how to. So those were the what and the why, and this is the how. I didn't feel like people were ready for the how till I could fully explain the what and the why. You know, it's no point changing your diet in terms of the prescription if you don't really understand why you're doing it and what it's all about. Then it'll be sustainable. So I felt I needed to do the what and the why. But this book is the how, but it's a standalone book. Like if you just read this book, you can get all what's in the other books as well. I simplified it. I made it really concrete and tangible. And I'm really, really excited for parents to start reading it.
I'm so excited for my audience to get it. We have so many young parents who follow along, and I know there are 20 steps, but you've broken them up into 3 different stages. Can you talk about the 3 different stages of each step?
Right. So the first stage is from frustration to clarity. Why we have frustration, what are the reasons for our confusion and our frustration, and what we need to change in our belief systems to think clearly. First, we have to change the belief systems. The second one is about changing patterns. It's called from dysfunctional patterns to conscious choice. We don't realize we're living patterns from our childhood. We don't realize that we are literally repeating the same things that we got in childhood, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work because it's on autopilot. Most of us are parenting from autopilot, not from conscious choice. And stage 3 is all about making that conscious connection with our children. How do you actually connect with your children? How do you actually create that bond that will allow them to have this foundation for the rest of their lives?
I love that you address frustration first. We really can't connect from a frustrated space as a parent. It, we can show up reactively. So can you talk about how to have clarity from frustration?
Well, there are many reasons we have frustration, and that's what I explained in stage 1. The main reason is because we have been told by culture that we need to have total control over our children. Well, this is a lie. And the more we buy into the lie that we should have total control over our children, everything they don't do according to our control will create frustration. So We have to really understand why we're frustrated with our children. We think it's because the child is not listening, or the child is dawdling, or the child is procrastinating, or the child is not, following your rules. That's not the reason for your frustration. The reason for your frustration is because you think that they should be not doing those things.
Mhm.
And most of the time, children do those things because they are, surprise, children. Children, right, live in the moment. Children are playful. Children are, joyful. Children are, you have short-term memory loss. They cannot remember one from the next. Their brains are still developing. They don't have enough practice. They are not misbehaving because they're evil or they're purposely machinating to make your life miserable. They are literally just being children. But because we don't understand who children are, and in this book I have a whole section on understanding, the nature of children. Uh, if you understood who children are, if you understood why they behave the way they do, and that you can never ask for total dominion and control, looking for that is a waste of time.
Mhm.
It's futile. Once you get that, then you're not so frustrated anymore. So our expectations are all misaligned. And what is reality and what are our expectations are totally clashing with each other.
So for parents of young kids like myself, how do we I mean, I can accept that I don't have control over my kids most of the time and that I'm hoping that they're gonna follow some of the house rules or be, I don't wanna say they're being disrespectful because they're not, they're being children, right? But how can and what can we expect? How can we change our expectations to not feel frustrated?
Well, first, when you understand who children are, which is, they are not mini yous, they're not a mini adult, they are children, which means that their brain is still developing, they don't have enough life experience, and they need constant coaching and creativity. You have to be the leaders in the house without being the boss, right? So you have to be creative. You have to get their buy-in. If they're learning to brush their teeth, well, they may need to brush your teeth first, or you may need to brush their teeth, and then the teddy bear's teeth, and then the doll's teeth, and then they learn to brush.
Yeah.
It takes time.
Yeah.
They when they go to preschool for the first time, well, that transition will take time because they're children and they are creatures of habit. So when you put them out of habit, they're going to have a hard time adjusting. But they're not doing this because of any evil intention, right? So once you understand this, you automatically have patience.
Mhm.
Then you think creatively, you think playfully, you're willing to have fun. Everything becomes about the joy of the moment. We make it a chore. You see, we make it onerous because we have 10,000 rules, which we can barely follow. So we created an environment of strife, of tension, of battling. We do that. They don't do that. We create this battle. You have to eat at 7:15. You have to sit at the table. No, we don't have to eat at 7:15 and we don't have to sit at the table. Right. So then people will go, but then we'll have no rules.
Mhm.
Okay, so we can have a way of being when we all follow a general way of being versus thinking about it in terms of rules, right? When you think of rules, you automatically get stressed.
Mhm.
When you put deadlines, you automatically have tension.
Mhm.
Instead of living like that, let's flow with it. Okay, we'll eat sometime in the evening.
Mhm.
We don't have to sit on the table.
Mhm.
It's these rigid ideas that box us in, and then we're fighting with our children, which then creates a disconnection, which then creates the real problem. The real problem isn't whether you eat your carrots first, or you eat it on a stool, or you eat it on a ladder. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter. What matters is that we are all flowing, we are staying in joy, we're having fun. That's what childhood is about. It's about fun and creativity and playfulness and imagination. But we're forgetting this because we're trying to control this child.
So how do you coach or educate parents on what rules matter versus what rules are arbitrary that we're creating that are actually creating tension and friction and fighting?
Right. Well, till the age of 6, the only rule that really matters is safety. That's it. So how easy is that? Right? Just focus on that. All the rest till the age of 6 should be about connection, bonding, relationship building, playfulness, acceptance, safety, security, soothing. That's it. You have to do that till the age of 6, right? You've got them in the house, keep them safe, keep them secure, see them, validate them, honor them, make it a safe space to express, and allow them to show up as they are. So create an emotionally safe environment where they can cry, scream, yell, and they're safe. You're not going to scream at them. You're not going to shout at them. You're going to understand them. You're going to patiently teach them and create a physically safe environment. Now, from 6 to 12, while you still have to keep safety, now they have to go to school, right? For example. So I call it life enhancing boundaries or ego enhancing boundaries. So, yes, there are a few life enhancing boundaries that you need to institute. They may need to have a few showers a week, right?
Yeah.
Brush your teeth every day, go to bed, eat some food, go to school, play, right? This is it. Now, we have created an atmosphere of learning the tambourine and learning sign language and traveling to Africa and going to India. That all is extra. You don't have to do any of that to raise a healthy, resilient child. Exposing them to skiing, to the harp. All this I call ego. Do it, have fun with it, but don't lock yourself and your child into it. Whether your child does horse riding or not is not going to create an emotionally resilient child. So the life enhancing boundaries, those 5 things I talked about, they need to play outdoors and be connected to human beings. They need to brush their teeth and have a few showers. They need to go to school. They need to sleep and eat. That's it. We've created this complication of extracurriculars and extra enrichment. And no, that's not necessary. So if you want to do it, at least know that you are arbitrarily deciding that this is important. But we know it's not important, because if it was important, every human being on earth would be horse riding. Every human being on earth would be going for piano lessons, right? So the fact that it's arbitrary shows it's arbitrary. So if it's arbitrary, it's coming from you. It's not coming from a need within the child.
Right.
Do the basics and the rest is extra, and keep it light and keep it moving. And life will be so much simpler. So I teach this, how to simplify your parenting, how to truly go for the essentials, and how to liberate yourself from all this extra burden, right? When I was raising my child, I too came with this conditioning that my child needs to be in competitive sports. So I tried it. Guess what? My child rebelled like crazy, but I still pushed because I was controlling at that time. So I pushed her to join a horse riding competition, and she did so well. And I was so excited that now I could be a horse rider's mother. And literally after the first competition, she took out her pigtails. She threw the helmet on the floor. She was about to ruin the expensive jacket, but I stopped her, thank goodness. Like, never again. And she still blames me to this day that I ruined her love for horses because I pushed her into competition. And she said to me, I'm not that kind of kid, but I didn't want to listen because I wanted to be that kind of mom. So I didn't care. Right. So in all these ways, we totally F up our children's joy for life, and we create a disconnection. And, thank goodness my daughter was strong. So she fought me and I was weak and I listened. So thank goodness it worked out. But if I was a tyrannical mother and she was a weaker child, then I would have gotten my way and I would have taught my child to override her authentic spirit. And that would actually be the cause of a lot of her failure in life, not riding a horse. The fact that I did not allow her to honor her true self, that would screw her up in life.
It's what you talk about in stage 2. It's the ego that gets our ego that gets in the way, and depending on the power struggle between the parent and the child. I mean, I'm so thankful for you that your daughter was so strong, because she did honor herself,
Yes,
and she
I am
honored
too.
herself against your wishes, which is really powerful. So can you talk about stage 2 and the ego styles, and how we can ensure that we aren't projecting on our kids and really focusing on ego-driven needs?
So we will always project on our children. The trick is not to not project, because you are going to project. So let's not have an ego to think that we won't have an ego, right? So many parents come to me and go, they say, I'm a conscious parent. So I lovingly laugh and say, well, that is the first sign of an unconscious parent, just what you just said. So the other day, somebody came up to me and said, I'm conscious. And I said, well, that's a very unconscious thing to say. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, no conscious parent will ever say they're conscious. You know why? Because they're so conscious of the fact that the ego is right there. The projection is right there. It can happen at any point. So to actually have the audacity to think that you're conscious is a very big red flag that you are highly unconscious. Conscious people will never say they're conscious, because they know how tricky the ego is. So they're not going to fall for that, right? They're like, the minute I say I'm conscious, there the ego is going to come. Conscious people will never be caught talking such nonsense. Like, I'm conscious. Never. It's complete nonsense. So in stage 2, I talk about breaking your patterns. And what that means is you have to become aware as a parent that you have patterns from childhood. You have a lot of load, a lot of baggage. And people will literally be with me in coaching, and for weeks they will be like, I can't see my pattern. And I'm like, that is your pattern. That the fact that you can't see your pattern, you're so removed from yourself that you cannot even see. The other day I was coaching a mother and I kept saying, do you see your pattern? Do you see what you're doing to your child? And she's like, maybe, probably. I'm like, no, maybe, no, probably. You are harming your child. And she couldn't see it, because to her, she was innocent, because that's how her ego was sneaking and tricking her so much to tell her that she's so right. She couldn't see how she was judgmental and how she was cruel to her daughter. Anyway, so basically pointing out that we don't know that we are living a pattern and many patterns, and we don't see the pattern, and we're not awake to our own unconsciousness. So stage 2 really talks about how, as a parent, you repeat your patterns, what you should do about it, how to break it. I talk about the 5 main ego patterns that we have. I talk about the fighter parent, the fixer parent, the feigner parent, the freezer parent, and the fleer parent. And each kind of parent I describe in that stage has an emotional template. And so, for example, the fighter has anger. The fixer has anxiety. The feigner has attention seeking. The freezer has avoidance, and the fleer has abandonment. And because we're not in touch with our emotions, our feelings, our body, we escape the feeling, we bypass the feeling and go straight into ego reactivity. So I'm a fixer. Instead of sitting with my anxiety, I will try to fix my daughter. And until I notice myself fixing, and then asking myself, why am I rescuing right now? Why am I over saving? Why am I over interfering or over parenting? I'm anxious. Okay, now I teach in the stage. Okay, go deeper. What's making you anxious? Well, I'm really scared that if my daughter doesn't get invited to the party, that she's going to be left out for the rest of her life. Okay, where is this coming from? Well, when I was 8 years old, I wasn't invited to the popular girls' party. Okay. So now we're going deep, right? We're beginning to identify that my fixer is actually a reparation for my inner child, right? Because I'm so nervous and so anxious, but I haven't healed that. I keep dumping on my child, trying to fix her instead of fixing my own broken self, right? So I teach how to do this in stage 2.
So for someone who is wanting to do inner child work, where can they start?
They should start at the behavior. Like, what triggers you? How do you get triggered? Are you a fighter? Are you a fixer? Are you a feigner? Are you a freezer? Are you a fleer? And you start at that level, because that's easy to spot, right? Because it's behavioral. And then you have to go deeper to ask, what is the feeling behind the behavior? What is the ego pattern trying to protect? It's protecting the scared inner child. Then you come to the inner child. And then I talk about how to reparent the inner child.
Can you talk about reparenting yourself when it comes, or the example that you gave when it came to the 8-year-old not being invited to the party and then worrying so much that her daughter wouldn't be included in the group? What would reparenting look like for that mom?
So if I'm the mom and I had an inner child wound around not belonging to a fancy group or to the clique, I would go deeper and go, okay, I'm so scared that my daughter will not be belonging because I didn't feel like I belong.
Mhm,
So then I would go deeper. Okay, so if I didn't belong, how did that make me feel? It made me feel like I'm not good enough.
mhm,
And then I would be like, okay, that's your pain. I see. See, you're in pain because your daughter didn't get invited. So can you, Shefali, honor that it's you, it's your pain? Because your daughter may be okay. And your daughter maybe needs to learn that she's okay, even if she's not invited. You still are wounded from that experience from your childhood. So inner child work means soothing the inner child. It's not happening to you. It's not a repetition of your childhood. This, your daughter is not you. This is a separate situation. I need to calm myself down, right? So you soothe the inner child. And then I talk about activating the parent, the insightful self, the third eye, I call it the eye, third eye. You activate the insightful self. So that voice in me would say, you're okay, Shafari. You did fine. You don't need to be invited to feel whole and complete. You are good enough just as you are. So I would become my own parent and soothe myself. And then once I'm calm, then the insightful part of me, my adult self, would realize that it's a good experience for my child to go through. She needs to learn that her worth doesn't depend on this. So let me help her. So I'd go to my child and go, Maya, I know it hurts you. I know you're feeling some feelings. Let's soothe those feelings. But let me tell you that you're not going to be invited by everybody in life. It's okay. It doesn't mean that you are better or less or more or less. You are beautiful as you are. And I would help her to activate that voice within herself. So this is how heal people, and how hurt people can hurt people.
wow. So it's you can't get around the work. It's really going back to what it is, what your pain points are, what your traumas are, what your childhood was like, and breaking a cycle by going deep and going back. So once you've worked on that side of yourself and you start to identify what type of ego you are, what type of parent you are, the emotion behind it, and get in the habit of reparenting yourself from that space so that you can show up and be the healer from a healed space, what does it look like to truly connect and focus? Because as a parent, for me, what's coming out of all of the research and parenting experts is really the most important thing is that Sebastian and I and Tasha and I and this third baby boy Bacon and me and I have a really strong connection, and that no matter what it is, he can come to me and without shame or guilt or fear, and that I have unconditional love for him and that I can handle anything that he brings my way. How do we really show up in that conscious way so that they always feel that?
Well, again, often tell parents, and I talk about it in the book as well, how you see yourself is how you see your children. So if you have not owned all parts of you, if you've not accepted all parts of you, you will reject your child. So if you really want your child to feel whole and complete and worthy in front of you, you need to do that for yourself. Otherwise, the parts in you that you don't like and you've suppressed or ignored, you will, when it comes up in your child, you will suppress and ignore it when it shows up in your child. So this is how you have to be very aware that you will project your own self onto your child. So for example, if you're ashamed of your body, and if you see your child having that body like you, then you're going to project that shame onto your child. So until you come across as whole, for sure you will project anxiety and your own subjugation, suppression, oppression onto your children.
So in stage 3, I mean, these are steps 12 through 20 in the book. You talk, I think 19 stood out for me. You to start right now. Like I want every time I interview someone in the parenting space, I get really excited because like we said in the beginning, you want to be the best version of yourself for your children. And I think this is my most important job in life. Like I really care so deeply, like so many other parents, and I want to get going, but I want to get going right. So is it too late for some of us? Like I think about Sebastian's already 4.5 and you're telling me I only have until 6. Like what what can we do to get started right now?
Yeah, so there's no starting place better than the present moment. You are who you are because of all that you were and were not.
Mhm.
So there's no looking back, there's no regretting, there's no feeling ashamed. It's all about starting right now. It's never too late. My daughter's 20. I'm still doing better and better every day. So if I am not narcissistic to think I should have been perfect at 25,
Mhm.
then or 45, then I'm just like, yeah, I'm effed up. Sorry, but I'm evolving, I'm learning. So if you are truly self-accepting and compassionate, you'll be like, yeah, I was totally messed up yesterday, and now I'm going to learn. But it's the narcissism that makes us feel guilty, because the narcissism says you should have been amazing, you should have been perfect.
Mhm.
That's all a lie. There is no parent who will not mess up their kid.
Mhm.
Listen, I literally try to be as conscious as possible, but if you talk to my daughter, she will paint a horror story. Okay. Loves to share and they have memories of a bloody elephant, right? They will pull up stuff, 1 10-minute window in 1992, they will remember, right?
Mhm.
So there's no escaping the responsibility. And all you need to say is, yeah, you're right. I was so messed up,
Mhm.
right? And the way they tell it, especially if they're not pleaser children, my daughter's not a pleaser. Wow, man. I tell her, don't come around because you're not good for the brand. Because
Yeah.
the way you say to me, and she's like, yeah, mom, you were like that, and you pushed me, and you traumatized me. She knows all the words.
Yeah.
But I love that she says that, because it shows that she doesn't take responsibility, right? She's like, it's your fault, which is great. I don't want her to internalize any shame. I need her to give it right back to me, and I can hold it, right? And I can be accountable and go, yeah, from your point of view, and actually, even not from your point of view, from my point of view, I was really unconscious.
Mhm.
But parents are so defensive.
Mhm.
Like we're pretending as if we know what we're doing.
Mhm.
I barely still know what I'm doing. So how can we have known, or you have known, when you just started out? You never met these people before.
Yeah. They're
You don't
all
know.
different. I'm learning
They're
on the
all
job.
different, right? They're complex DNA from who knows, his side of the family, your side of the family. Who knows what that is? It's showing up in the present moment. How the hell are you supposed to know how to do this? So it's our arrogance and our ignorance that make us parents feel that we have all this knowledge, and it's really our ego. And I bust the ego and I tell us, roll up your sleeves. I don't care if your kid is 30 or 20 or 3. Start doing the work right now. And each day can be better. It may not be perfect because there's no such thing. So we just do better, right? We show up better each day.
You talk about showing up better in a few of the steps in stage 3, like reframing mistakes and instead of it, using punishment, using other ways like reframing mistakes and dropping to the heart, really connecting, empathizing with our child. Can you give an example of how someone might go through, instead of using punishment, reframing the mistake and then connecting with their child?
Sure. Like, I mean, literally, parents have such an ego that we can find anything disrespectful.
Mhm.
Like, once I had a client whose son was in the room with us and he rolled his eyes, and she found it disrespectful.
Mhm.
Right? And I had to tell her, sorry, can you tell me whose eyeballs they are? And she's like, they're his eyes. I went, wait, whose eyes? His eyes. I was, whose eyes? His eyes. So I was like, oh, but you think his eyes are your eyes because he's not allowed to do what he wants with his eyes. Like, she found it disrespectful because he rolled his eyes.
Mhm.
So we parents are so fragile.
Mhm.
We can find anything disrespectful. Oh, I've been talking for 3 minutes and I see that you're not, you looked at your phone. We can find that disrespectful. Or I called you to the table to eat dinner and you're 16 minutes late. That can be disrespectful. If you have a big pain body as a human being, which means you've not healed your traumas,
Mhm.
anything can be disrespectful. So
Mhm.
children are always getting into trouble if you have a parent who's always looking to be hurt, right?
Mhm.
Now that I've healed myself, for example, not, very little can hurt me
Yeah.
by my child because I'm not looking for her to validate me in any way, right? So whenever we are not healed and we're looking for validation or significance, then when we don't get it, then we call it disrespect.
Mhm.
So we don't allow our children to just be children, right? Everything is like, oh, you disrespected me. You didn't call me on Mother's Day. You didn't call me on birth. Anything can be disrespect. So anyway, so when you understand your ego, then you can reframe the disrespect as, oh, my child was being the sovereign spirit and was tired, or they didn't hear me, or you know what? I am annoying. No wonder my child tunes me out. I need to, I need to find a different way to approach my kid. I need to find a better way to connect, right? So in the book, I give strategies for how to shift out of punishment is the most stupid thing in the world because you're punishing somebody who doesn't know to do it better. So how can you punish them because they didn't do it better, but they didn't know?
Mhm.
Punishment is the greatest cause of disconnection. It'll cause the child to shut down. It'll cause the child to withdraw. And you will end up right. Maybe you'll be right, but you'll be alone.
So if someone's in the state of feeling like their child's disrespecting them, not listening to them, I'll give an example. We were sitting down to the table. I love that that was one of your examples last night for dinner. And Sebastian's 4, he's like standing by his chair. He doesn't want to really be in his chair. He might not even really be hungry, and I love that my family sits at the dinner table. But Chris does like order. My husband, like, he wants everyone sitting down. He wants it to feel controlled. And I always try to remind him, like, they're not 20 yet. We're not all going to just sit here. They want to get up. It's a 5-minute dinner at most, but it's like a little bit more of a sterner voice. Sebastian, sit in your chair. And it's like it sounds like from your advice, it's like we gotta get creative. Like maybe Chris stands up and is like, "I guess we're just eating standing up tonight," or like
So
something like that. But
so fun. Or I'm going to stand. Okay, first, Sebastian's going to stand for 3 minutes and you put the timer. And then in the next 3 minutes, mommy's going to stand and Sebastian has to sit, right? And
okay.
we practice, right? And we make it fun and we make it joyful. But who said they have to sit at a table?
Yeah.
Like that's got nothing to do with respect.
Yeah.
See, what I'm trying to say is that we can convert everything into disrespect
Yeah.
because we're not our way.
Mhm.
But we don't see how we are controlling the situation and trying to disrespect our children's right to stand up.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about? The standing or
Yeah. Yeah.
the big picture. What are we yelling at our children about?
Right. Right.
It's our control issues.
Right.
If the child is not hungry, so many mothers I have coached where they're fighting over breakfast. No, breakfast is the most important meal in the day. I said who?
Yeah.
Right? Any meal is important.
Mhm.
Our forefathers and mothers just ate when they ate in 3 days. That was the important meal.
Yeah.
We're not going to wither away. We have too much food as it is.
Mhm.
And we're just living out of anxiety and control and making a big mess out of it. And, uh, just creating rules where there shouldn't be any. And then when somebody breaks the rules, then we're yelling when all of it is unnecessary.
So how do we validate, empathize, and neutralize that type of a situation so that our child feels seen and connected to?
Right. Again, we validate that they want to stand. We empathize, we neutralize, it's normal. So once you're coming from that energy of calm, everything changes. Now you're going to be creative. You do this game.
Mhm.
You stand on Mondays, I stand on Tuesdays, that he stands on Wednesdays. But guess what? Then the other days he's sitting. So
Yeah.
you're getting your win.
Yeah.
You negotiate a win-win situation. Why should it be that only you win?
Yeah.
Right? So you're teaching your child that they are important. They can, quote unquote, come to the table
Mhm.
and they can have a voice at the table.
Mhm.
It's not just my way or the highway. So be creative.
Mhm.
Try that out. Play a game out of it. He will love the game. Or have another game, glue on the chair. Let's imagine there's glue. Let's see who has the best glue, right? And we each one tries to get the other one to stand up, and you see who sits down the most. He'll never get up, Sebastian.
Yeah.
He'll want to win the game. But why aren't we being creative? Why are we just saying, sit down, sit down, sit down, Sebastian, sit down, sit down, sit down? How monotonous, how ridiculous, and how uncreative are we?
Yeah.
Make a game out of it. And watch, your son will win the game. He will not get up if you call it glue in the chair. Who's got the best glue? Let's see.
Right. My husband is really creative. Naturally, actually. That's who he is in his workspace and his creative space. How do I support him, and how do I remind myself to bring that fun and play back in?
But that's what I'm saying. We are very amazing outside, but when it comes to our kids, we lose our mind.
Mhm.
Like, we lose our creativity, we lose our playfulness. It's because we're coming from control. I said this right at the start. The first problem we have is we think we should control our children. We would not do it with our partners. We wouldn't do it with our mother-in-laws,
Mhm.
but we do it with our children because we think that's how we're supposed to be. And that's what messes us up from step 2 to 1002, right? Because step 1 is wrong.
Yeah.
If he came in with like, oh, this is my teammate
Mhm.
and this is my team, and I have to build the team's morale, and I have to bring in the buy-in, and you look at this little Sebastian as part of your team that you have to buy him into, then you will buy him into it.
Right.
You'll find a creative way. But we lose that because the minute we enter the parenting space, we become our parents: boring, dictatorial, tyrannical, controlling, monotonous, and angry.
Mhm.
Nothing happens to us,
Mhm.
right? We should have so much fun with our children. They are so, so fun.
I know, and they're so cute. God, I mean, it's like
So
so like
they're adorable. But we're robbing
so
the fun,
sweet.
the juice out of children. Sit down. So boring.
Yeah. Hurry up. Time for this, time for that.
After that, we're
Yeah.
like scheduled taskmasters. They just want to have fun. And you know what? That attitude of fun and play and lightness and ease and joy and being, if we allow that enough in childhood, they will have such a bank of it, a credit of it. That's what creates resilience later.
Mm.
But we're burning out our children by making them do, 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 do. By the time the 21 and where they actually have to start doing, they can't do it anymore. They're burnt out.
Right.
So
Right.
you let them be easy and lazy and joyful and fun and bored, and stop trying to make them machines at childhood. They will burn out by 21.
Well, speaking of being bored, can you touch on screen time and how that plays a role in
Yes, screen time is a curse. It's an anathema. It's always been. It's more so now. If you are a young parent like you are, do not give them any portable screens. Still, they're teenagers. Go back to the good old TV that we grew up with. That's way better because it's not designed to manipulate
Mhm.
to a point, beyond a point. Stay away from portable screens. Stay away from scrolling things, constant streaming stuff, because that's so addictive.
Mhm. Okay. I mean, I love a minimalist approach in all aspects of my life. I feel like what you've given me in the parenting map is a minimalist approach to parenting, which is truly getting to the basics. It's getting the basics and knowing the basics are good enough and knowing they're actually more important than all the other things that we've built up to be important milestones for our children, when really it's us focusing on healing ourselves, letting go of control, and allowing for the playful fun of childhood that I so much remember and love about growing up. Like, I have so much nostalgia for that, those early years of my life when it was all bikes and Barbies and play and imagination and dress up and all the things that I did as a little girl. Like, I want my children to have that, and I want to protect that. And I don't want lots of rules. I don't want lots of control. Um, so I love the basics of safety because, yes, of course, I don't want anything to happen to them either. But thank you so much for writing this book and for Being just so confident. I know you've been doing this for so long, and I know confidence and clarity comes from experience, and that's something you've had not only as a mom for 20 years, but as an expert and a doctor in the space to really stand up and say it doesn't have to be complicated, and then it really can be clear, and it can be easy, and it can be fun. So and it can be simple without screens and without extracurricular stuff. So thank you so much for spreading this message. I think it's really important. I think everyone should get their hands on your new book, The Parenting Map. I mean, I've
This
already
is the book.
written
Yep.
down a bunch of notes myself, and um, you know, Chris and I love our kids a lot, just like all the parents listening. Like we and doing a good job doesn't mean being perfect. It really just means getting the basics right. And that's what you share in your book. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people follow along? Where can they get the book and where can they learn more?
Well, I have a coaching institute where I train people to become their own coaches and to coach other parents. So they can join that institute if they want to be the ambassadors of this message. They can find me at drshefali.com and on my Instagram page, of course. So once again, thank you so much for having me.
I'll put everything in the show notes and a little roundup of your stages and steps, links to your institute, your books, and all of your social. Thank you so much for spending the time with me today.
Thank you, Kelly.